Thanks, Mark. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, or whatever time you are listening to this live or after the fact. As we know, and as Mark elucidated, we are in the month of Elul. And Elul is a time of checking in. One of the things that I've been becoming aware of as I've been putting my teachings together for this month, I'm working with 4 different concepts, one each week. The first week is our relationship, ben adam la'atzmo, la'atzma, le'atzmenu, our relationship with ourself. The second week, ben adam lechavero, our relationship with others. The third week will be ben adam la'adama, our relationship with the earth, and ultimately ben adam la'makom, our relationship with the sacred. Of course, they're all intertwined. And as we're shifting from this week of really paying very close and dear attention to ourselves to this week of connecting in with our relationships with others, I'm aware of the tenderness in that transition. And I'm also aware that it is very common for us to use this time in Elul and the time of the high holidays to be looking at what we don't like, what's not working, what do we need to fix or repair or dump. And I'm very much drawn to a concept of nourishing ourselves in all of our discovery. And so with that, I'd like to start this morning with a little melody that I'll invite Andrew to share on the screen share. It's a melody from the Amidah, the evening Amidah. And if you could make that a little bit bigger, Andrew, that would be awesome. So the words, Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, and spread over us a sukkah of peace, or a blanket, perhaps, of peace. Andrew, would it be better if I did a screen share? Maybe I'll try that. There we go. Beautiful. Thank you so much. So you may know this melody. I invite you to sing if you choose. Breathe it in if you choose. Ufros aleinu sukat, sukat, shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat, sukat, shlomecha. Let the melody bathe you. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. So as we're in this week of bringing our attention to the way we're interacting with other people, I was drawn to the book Mindfulness by Williams and Penman, where one of his chapters is called Turning Toward Difficulty. And I really looked for something to bring out of his teaching. And the one thing that spoke to me that I thought I would share is this lovely poem of Rumi's called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, right? Sometimes every minute, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. She may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So when we normally think about our relationships with others and turning towards difficulties, we may be drawn to, oh yeah, there's that one. Oh yeah, I know that one. And what I want to invite today is, if that is what happens for you, beautiful. If that is not what happens for you, what I invite us to do, and I will guide us in the meditation, is to look for the piece that is not that obvious. So let's find our spot. Feet on the ground or crossed under you if you're on a cushion, or bent under you if you're on a cushion. Stretched out in front of you if you're on a couch. Feeling your legs as they ground you, as they hold you. Letting them flow up into your hips and spine. Feeling your spine sturdy, yet soft. Dignified, and yet receptive. Notice your shoulders and rib cage. Can you open just a little bit? Allowing more light, more life, more breath to come in. And bring your attention to your neck and your throat, back of your neck. See if there's any tension there to soften. And notice your face, your head. Maybe just angle your head around on your neck just for a moment to release any tension there. Softening the muscles of the face, the eyes, and right above the eyes, the space of the third eye. And if it's comfortable for you, I invite you to bring your attention to your breath. Just noticing. If that is not a good choice for you, I invite you to bring your awareness to the sensations of your body as they touch whatever it is that you're sitting or lying on. Or to focus on a light softly in front of your third eye. Or sounds. Let's take just a little bit of time with that to really get ourselves centered and quiet. Take a moment to be thankful for this body with all of its strengths and vulnerabilities that enables you to be here right now. And as you're finding yourself settling and quieting, I invite you to bring your awareness something that could use your attention and your kindness. You may go right to it. Oh, yes, that conversation yesterday. That health issue. My recent loss. Some frustration or hurt. And if you find that, I invite you to greet it as a friend. Ask it what it comes to teach you. And what it needs for healing. And if that's clear, that topic, spend some time with that. If it's not so clear, continue to settle. See if you can allow yourself to open a little more fully. Perhaps soften the heart. Or the belly. Or somewhere that feels tense. And for you, this question could be, what am I not looking at? What do I not want to see? What do I not want to feel? What would I rather not know? Be kind with yourself. As this protection is here for a reason. And if you can allow yourself, knowing that you are in a community of supportive people, all doing this work together, holding each other, as it were. See if you can allow yourself to spend some time with whatever that is. If placing a hand somewhere on your body is supportive and helpful, of course, please do that. We'll take some quiet time. If, as you're doing your inquiry, you discover some emotions, that's okay. It's an opportunity for release, for healing. as we come close to completing this time together. You may notice or have noticed that as you have brought your attention to wherever it was drawn, that it changed. Maybe it released some. Maybe it told you there's an action for you to take. Maybe it helped you see that you need support in some way. And maybe you're still in your process. Acknowledge yourself for going in to the discomfort, for looking at the places that are less than appealing to look at. For this, too, is a way of taking care of you. May you breathe it in, and may it bring you light.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Robin Damsky. This being the month of Elul, this is our custom, since our practice is intended as a practice for awakening awareness, spiritual consciousness. It's our custom to end with attuning ourselves to the sound of the shofar. Thanks to John Silver, our Baal Tekiah for today. I'm going to highlight John and thank you in advance, John, and invite us all just to sit as Robin was inviting us today to listen and hear deeply the sound of the shofar for today.
And thank you, Mark. I just want to share with you what my kavanah is when I'm sounding these three notes, where I am today, 51 years after my father passed away, and this week after my Sarah mother-in-law passed away. That tekiah is, as Robin said, to wake up and to remember, and maybe to be aware of I don't want to see, what I don't want to feel. The shvarim trua, the awareness of the sorrow that I'm experiencing and feeling, but then ending with a tekiah of a gratitude for being touched by these wonderful lives.
Thank you so much, John. And friends, we seal the practice as we do each day. Any of you who may be in mourning, observing your site, if you're accustomed to joining the Mourner's Kaddish, are welcome to do so. You can put the name or names of those you're honoring today in the chat now or after we recite the Kaddish. Thanks to Andrew Schumann for putting the words on the screen. And if you're reciting the Kaddish, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit to share the words together, and you can unmute at this time. Hadal, Vikadash Sheme Rabba, Yalmad, Vivrat, Vitev, Yarif, Malchutei, Vayechon, Uvamechon, Uchaye, Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ha'agala, Bizman, Kativ, Ru, Yehi, Shmei, Rabba, Barach, Le'ale, Alaya, Barach, Vishtabach, V'ar, Yadar, V'Tala, Shmei, Jav, La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, ushbechata v'nechamata, amiran ba'alma, ru, amen. Shlama Rabba min Shemaya, Chayim Aleinu v'Al Yisrael, amen. Aseh shalom b'romav, u'ya'aseh shalom Leinu v'Al Yisrael, v'Al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Imru. Amen. Friends, thanks for joining us today. Thanks to Andrew Schumann for holding our tech space, and thanks to John Silver for sounding our shofar and for sponsoring our practice today in loving memory of your dad and your mother-in-law, John. Zichronon livracha, may their memories be a blessing always for you, your family, and in this world. And thanks to our teacher for today, Rabbi Robin Damsky, for leading us as always so beautifully. And everyone is welcome to stay on, to join us, to continue to sit together if you like, or to share reflections, engage in some conversation with Robin about the teaching and practice today. If you're leading us now, hope you'll join us tomorrow. Rebecca Schistler will lead us to sit into Shabbat together at our normal time, and we hope you'll join us then. And for those who can't join us then, wishing you an early Shabbat Shalom, a sweet, restorative Shabbat. And we hope we'll see you next week or sometime soon. So I'm going to bring Robin in, as always. If you have a question for Robin you'd like to ask, please put it in the chat, and I'll keep an eye out. If it's a question, please preface it by writing question. And we, of course, as always, just sharing your reflection on your experience with the practice today. Robin, thanks. It feels like Rumi, that guest house poem has been our leitmotif since we started these daily sets way back in the spring of 2020. There's been a lot of references to it, but we haven't actually looked at the poem itself for a while. So I really appreciated the opportunity to do that. And I find so much wisdom in it. It's just like a good, simple, instruction for practice to notice what comes up and to receive it as it is, without pushing it away, without saying, sorry, you don't have a reservation, or no vacancy, sorry, come back next year, maybe. But there's two parts of it, I think, at least two parts of it. One is this adopting a sense of being curious and welcoming for whatever arises, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, right? And he says, especially he points out, he really only names the unpleasant, right? It's as if, well, I don't need to name the pleasant. Of course, you want to invite them in, right? Or even the neutral. You say, like, all right, you come in too. But the unpleasant, the sorrows that may sweep, that are, they may be there to sweep your house clean for some new, unexpected joy, singles out the thoughts, the feelings, whatever comes up that we experience as negative, and to which we have an aversion, right? We want to put it away. So you invited us in our practice today to notice that aversion, right? What we don't want to look at. And when you were doing that, I was thinking, well, that's right. That's so counter to the message of the poem. Notice what I am. I'll speak from the I. Notice what I don't want to look at, and then let it in. Let it in. That's what Rumi says. Rumi says, let it in. But then another thing came up for me, which was, well, the part of that practice is accepting the aversion and saying, maybe what came up for me was thinking, well, what if is knocking at the door, particularly for people who have suffered trauma, right? Is actually destructive and not helpful, right? Is there a place in this schema for saying some things are not welcome, or I need to set a boundary not to look at things? That's in a more extreme case, but in a less extreme case, to say like, maybe I'm not ready to look at this yet, right? So I guess what I'm getting at, and here's the question, is in a kind of meta way, can I apply the guest house rubric to that which I do not want to welcome, and welcome that too? Welcome the resistance, welcome the aversion, and say, okay, whoa, this is hard to look at for me. This is hard for me to welcome it in, and I'm not going to force the door open. I'm just going to say, all right, maybe wait outside here for a minute while I deal with this. So I was wondering about that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. The reason that I chose this practice for today was expressed in the teaching that I offered last night and today in my a little journey, a little openings, because I was really resisting shifting from this week of relationship with myself to relationship with others. And I thought, what is that? What is that? And so, I thought, well, what am I going to bring today? What am I going to bring today? And then all of a sudden it was clear to look at the resistance. And having been through a fair amount of trauma, I would say that that's one of the reasons I said, be gentle and kind with yourself. Because sometimes, if we open the window, it's just way too much at once. And I also remember learning in lots of different settings about caring for ourselves, that sometimes labeling something is the right choice. I'm aware of this. Maybe that's enough for now. Sometimes labeling it is enough for the nervous system to begin to recognize that it's there. And if it isn't time to, open that window, to say, okay, I know that you're there. And maybe at some point, I will turn my attention towards you. Maybe I will choose to do that in a session with a guided professional. Maybe I will choose to do that in a bodywork session. Maybe I will write about it, or maybe I just need to wait. I know that we've both had experiences in working with meditation where it really hasn't been a good experience for people because something gets touched that is overwhelming. Unless that individual has a place to take that and process it, it can be a real trauma, like a re-trauma.
Right.
So gentleness, I think, is so important. And that's one of the reasons that I said, if you're guided to put a hand on your heart or somewhere in your body, just like, yes, I'm with you. And this is what we have available to us right now.
Yeah, I love that you started also with, the Frosalinu Sukach Lamecha, to imagine ourselves really it's a nice foreshadowing of where we're headed towards Sukkot, right? Of sitting in this being that is like a sukkah, that doesn't have hard walls, that really is, very quite open. That's the guest house. I love that connection of the sukkah and the guest house. But it is a sukkah shalom. It's a place of shalom. And if something that is interfering with that in some way, right, dysregulating in the way you're describing, it's worth looking at it. The other piece of the poem that I stood out for me today, and I thought, sometimes, especially in this setting, I look at the poem to think, well, how is this going to be received, right? What's going to come up for people? or mostly it's about what are the objections going to be here, right? Like you're saying. So that was number one. One of the objections is like, well, you're telling me I should welcome that, and the other, yeah, it's like, well, yes, and maybe sometimes, like you're saying, maybe sometimes you're like, check it at the door, maybe. So things like, I would say it's helpful for me to think about like the experiences that I might tend to push away, like grief, or shame, or guilt, whatever. It's like garden variety versions of those things, right? Not trauma induced ones necessarily, but just where there's an inclination to say, I'd rather not you, not today, and say, okay, let them in. It's not going to kill you, right? It's not going to kill you to feel a little shame. It's not going to kill you to feel a little guilt. Not going to kill me to feel a little embarrassment or what was the other? Great grief. But the other part of the poem that I wanted to lift up is ending, which he says, which in some ways is the difference between a mindfulness poem and a spiritual mindfulness poem. This first part is just basic mindfulness. It's like welcome whatever arises, right? Like our teacher Sylvia Borstein says, and you alluded to, meeting this moment fully, meeting it as a friend, fill in the not just moment, meet this feeling fully, meet this thought fully, meet it as a friend, etc. Welcome everything that comes. I was thinking about how many current cliches there are that fit this, like it is what it is, or it's all good, right? So that's kind of, we could put that in the category of mindfulness in general, but spiritual mindfulness, and this is, after all, we're treating this as a spiritual practice. At the end of the poem, he says, be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Now that, if we didn't have that, it would be, I think, a generic kind of secular poem, but that indicates. So I want to invite you to comment on that, because there are people who probably feel like, well, I don't know about that part, who's sending me these things, right? And what's this about? So I want to invite you to talk about, for people who might struggle with that idea, how do we understand it, that there's meaning in each of these things? There's a lesson that we're meant to learn in some way from each of these things. There's something that our soul needs by doing this.
So I'm going to tie it to what you brought up a little bit earlier about the Sukkot Shalom, and say that before I fully answer your question, is the recognition that Sukkot Shalom, that sukkah or blanket of peace, or that house of peace, is not just peace. Number one, it's wholeness. If we're feeling some level of brokenness inside, number one, we can't get to that wholeness until we somehow find our way to perhaps befriend, and that may not be an effective word, but it's a word for the minute, to befriend whatever that is. And if this Sukkot Shalom is the Creator holding us, and the purpose of this month and the days of the High Holy Season all the way through to the end of Simchat Torah, if they are days of bringing us back to wholeness and clarity and source, then we are literally being held spiritually. This is a spiritual time. And so, and I want to say that even with trauma is hard to deal with. And one of the questions that I often ask myself is this controlling me? Or am I in the driver's seat? And sometimes I can't get to the driver's seat. And I have to say, okay, I'm not there with this yet. But I'm sensitive to it. And I know that it's occupying more of my, I don't know that attention is really the right word. It's occupying more of my car than I'd like it to, okay, using the driving analogy.
Right.
And we each have to go at our pace and in our way. And I believe that if we see ourselves as spiritual beings, that all of what we experience, the incredible joy, the incredible loss, the incredible hurt and rage and frustration, it's all part of our spiritual journey. So they're all guests. They're all guests. And the word befriending, if I can say, oh yeah, there's that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's just hang. Let's just hang for just a little bit. Maybe it won't have so much power with me after I spend that time. And I think that's part of what the value of meditation is. And to go back to Sylvia for just one moment, she always says, she puts her hand on her heart and she says, I know, sweetheart, you're hurting.
Mm-hmm.
You're hurting. It's okay.
Right. Well, thanks for infusing all these guest houses with that love and gentleness today, Robin, which is, I'm glad you lifted that up at the end, how important that is. That's definitely an essential ingredient in the recipe of this practice of cheshbon hanefesh, of really looking, really doing a thorough inner house cleaning in the month of Elul, which is basically the practice. So thanks for leading us so beautifully today and bringing exactly, I think, what we needed, as always. Putting the link to Rabbi Robin's website once again in the chat. Thanks to John Silver. Oh, yeah.
I'll just say one quick thing. If you're interested in the emails, do sign up on my website. If you're a person who likes social media, these are posted on Instagram and Facebook at Limitless Judaism. So either way, I'd love to have you participate. And my blessings for a sweet and whole and tender season towards the high holy days.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, John. And thanks to Andrew Schumann for holding our space, and hope to see everyone tomorrow. Let's sit into Shabbat together with Rebecca Schisler. Blessings to all. Be well.